Okay, so today we're going to be taking a look at a Lenovo Chromebook C330. This specific laptop was brought in because it has a bad keyboard. There's a bunch of keys on the keyboard that no longer function, and so we're going to be replacing the entire top assembly. Unfortunately, on this model, you can't simply just replace the keyboard, at least not very easily, without some plastic rivets being removed, and they're kind of impossible to put back on. So really your best choice for this is to replace the top assembly. This is the replacement one we have here. We got this on eBay. This is the part number up here, so if you need that, this 5C up there. You can also find it if you just search for this exact model and then the Palmrest. But if you need it, it's right there, so pause the video if you need that. We paid about $20 for it, so like I said, really, there are ways to replace the keyboard, but they're simply not worth it because for $20 you can just get the entire top assembly there. So we are going to start the repair process. We're going to flip the laptop over and we're going to start taking it apart. It doesn't have a removable battery, so we won't be able to remove the battery right away, which is fine. I would just say, make sure that the machine is off before you open anything up. And you're going to need a Torx screwdriver bit. And for this laptop, looks like we're going to be using a T6 screwdriver bit. And we have these bottom screws here, so we have 2, 4, 6, 8, and 9 right there. So we're going to need to remove all of those screws before we can get access to the actual. So we can take these screws off here. Now it's a good idea if you're working on laptops, or if you're just doing this one time, not a huge deal, but just find a way to organize your screws. We like to use this little magnet here, which is nice because the screws hang on to the magnet. But if you're using, if you're just doing this like a one-time thing, an ice cube tray works pretty good as well. Or just take a picture ahead of time, that way you'll know exactly where all the screws went. But with that being said, we'll just continue removing the screws across the bottom here. Remove all of those as well. Down here. These are fairly long screws, so don't be alarmed if you're spinning your screwdriver for a little while before you can actually remove anything. Okay, now we have all those removed. Now we're going to need to use a pry tool. We like to use a guitar pick, or if you have a credit card, that would work as well. But all you're going to do is take the guitar pick, and you're going to want to separate the bottom from the top. So it's a little bit hard to tell, but there is a little bit of a seam. I'll try to see if I can focus indirectly on that there. Let's see if we can get that to focus a little bit better. There's a little bit of a seam in between these two pieces of plastic here. That is where the bottom and the top assembly meet. So it might be a little challenging to show it on camera, but we're just going to insert the pry tool in between there, and you can see just like that, it's starting to separate, and just work your way along. Don't put the guitar pick in too far. You just want it enough to be able to actually start separating the plastics. So we're going to go all the way around the edges here, all the way around. You should hear those tabs popping as the clips become unmounted from their holes. And now we can flip the laptop over. We can open the laptop up like so, and I believe the top actually comes off and not the bottom. So you're going to have to go along the edges on the top side of the keyboard, the Palmrest, and just like that. You should hear some more clicking. Okay, we should be able to lift up here, and at this point we should have this off. Now don't pull too hard, because you got to remember that the touchpad and the keyboard and everything is still connected. So you're just going to want to hinge this up just a tiny bit, and if you look down in there, you can see we have the keyboard connector here and we have the touchpad connector here. So this is going to be a little bit difficult to see, but all you need to do is to lift up this little black tab down here. See, hopefully you'll be able to see that. I lift up that black tab and I pull that cable straight out like that. Same exact thing for down here. You just lift up that black tab and then pull the connector right out like so. Tweezers work, or you can use your fingernail. There's quite a bit of room to get your finger under there, so if you have to do that, then that's definitely possible. So this is the old top right here. You can just confirm, make sure everything looks good compared to the new one. Make sure you have the right part and everything like that. You can tell, yes, this is definitely the right part. All the keys line up. the connectors are the same, everything like that. So we will set the old one off to the side, and we will get our new one here, and we're going to want to unwrap this real quick. And let's see, they seem to have packaged it fairly well. So we can pull the new one out, like so. And now we're going to need to put the new one on, so we'll just lay this in like that. We're going to leave it on sort of an angle because we have to put these connectors back in. So this is where it gets a little bit tricky because now we have to put these connectors back in. For this model, I would recommend putting the touchpad one in first, which is this tiny one here. And instead of lifting the latch up and then pulling the cable out, you want to make sure that the latch is up, which will enable you to, and you might have to close it a little bit, but should allow you to actually put the cable back in. So I'm going to try to do that here. It looks like I won't have a whole lot of room to do it because this cable, turns out, is actually quite a bit shorter. Let's see, I think I've given myself a little bit more room here. But I can basically plug this cable in to that connector and then push that black tab down. So I know that was a little bit difficult to see there, but what we did is we just pushed the cable into that connector and we pushed that black tab down. Hopefully I can show you on the keyboard so then you'll kind of be able to see it on a bigger connector. But same story, you want to slide that keyboard connector in like so. Hopefully you'll be able to see that. And then flip the black tab down like that. And there is a little white line on the keyboard connector. I don't know how well you're going to be able to see that because of the focus. Let me see if I can focus that in. But there is a little white line on the actual blue part of the connector, which tells you that it's in, the cable's in straight and it's aligned. And you're going to make sure that that is aligned before you actually snap the tab down. Now at this point, what I would probably want to do is to just make sure that the keyboard and the touchpad are connected correctly. So we're not going to snap the top down. We're just going to line it up to where it would be as if it was on. And we're just going to leave it sort of loose like that. And at this point, I'd probably plug in my charger. This model is a USB-C for charging, so we will just plug that in, and then we will turn the laptop on. Now remember that this top isn't in, so if you're going to lean it, make sure that you're holding on to it. But I'm just going to turn it on and make sure that the touchpad works. I'm going to make sure that the keyboard is functioning correctly. Save us a little bit of work in case it doesn't work. So I should be able to just test right here, and you can see that the keyboard is typing and everything like that, so it's most likely good. Good enough to be able to actually put it back in now. The mouse is working. You can see the mouse is working down there. And so now I can basically shut it off and we'll snap it back in, but just wanted to verify that that was functional. So now that that's back on, all we really have to do is snap everything back down. So I just push down, going around all the edges, just like we did when we were, the opposite of what we were doing when we were taking it off. And I just need to push that down, like so. Go all the way around the edges, make sure that it's definitely snapping itself in, like so. And just like that, looks good. So this one actually has a little bit of film over top of the touchpad, so I'll want to remove that. And after that, it looks like we are good to go. So I will flip it back over now. I can put these screws back in and then we should be good to go. So I will just do that real quick. The bottom part of the case is magnetic, so just be careful. I can screw all these back in, and then the repair will pretty much be over. What we like to do once we get this up and running, we will log into, since this is a Chromebook, we'll use the guest mode, or if we have their password, we'll sign in with their username, of course. And then we'll go to keyboardchecker.com. That will allow us to test every single key, even the function keys. And really all that it does is it highlights all the keys that it detects have been pressed, and that will let you know if you have a bad key or not. So originally this had an enter key that didn't work, it had a backspace key that didn't work. Pretty much anything on the right side of the far right side of the keyboard there wasn't working. So now when we put that into Keyboard Checker, we should see that all those keys light up, meaning that they're being detected as being pressed. And then of course you can always go into like a Word document or something and then type out a quick little message just to be sure that it's not temperamental or anything like that. But with that being said, all the screws are back in. So that's the last thing I would do. I would just sign in guest mode or their account, and I would just double check with keyboard checker to make sure all of the keys work. You can also, at the password prompt, type one key at a time and make sure that one key is actually going in, and hit the little eyeglass icon to show the password that you're typing in. And so I can't really show it too well now, but I am typing password in, and it is actually pressing the keys on the screen. So that's pretty much it for how to replace the keyboard / Palmrest assembly on this Lenovo Chromebook C330. If you have any questions, feel free to leave it in the comments, and if you want to see more videos or if this helped you, please feel free to subscribe.